There's a silence in Mason Hollow that's louder than any scream, because no one remembers the names of the girls who never came back. Nestled deep in the backwoods of Appalachia, the forgotten town of Mason Hollow, Kentucky, was barely a dot on the map. Its population had been shrinking for decades, and by 1999, there were more abandoned homes than occupied ones. Locals clung to quiet traditions, tight-knit families, and old secrets. But on August 15, 1999, everything changed when 3 teenage girls vanished without a trace. Their names? Lena Harper, 16, Mallory Griggs, 15, and June Talbot, 17. Briefly flashed across local news stations before fading into memory. For most of the world, they became just another cold case. But for their families and the few investigators who never let it go, the story never ended. And now, more than 2 decades later, new evidence has surfaced that might finally bring justice. It was supposed to be a sleepover, the kind every teen girl in the 90s looked forward to. Lena, Mallory, and June had been inseparable since grade school. On that humid summer night, they set up camp in June's backyard, just a short hike from the woods behind her house. They never made it to breakfast. June's mother woke up to find the tent empty, their sleeping bags untouched. Their footprints disappeared into the forest. No signs of struggle, no signs of escape, just an eerie broken branch and a single shoe half buried near the tree line. Sheriff Eli Rourke, a 30-year veteran of Mason Hollow, promised a full investigation. But after just 3 weeks of searching with no major leads, the case was quietly shut down. Locals whispered about it for a while. Some said the girls had run off to Nashville. Others blamed cults or wild animals. But one theory persisted: someone in town knew what happened. One of the girls' mothers, Marie Griggs, never stopped pressing. She kept detailed journals, knocking on doors, filing FOIAs, and even hiring a private investigator. But the answers stayed buried until 2023. In early 2023, new county officials began digitizing old case files from the sheriff's office. Deep in a mislabeled box marked "Abandoned Property," they found something shocking: a cassette tape, a stack of unprocessed Polaroids, and a confession letter. The letter was addressed to Sheriff Rourke and dated September 4, 1999, 3 weeks after the girls vanished. The confession, written by a man named Samuel Knott, claimed he witnessed the girls being loaded into a brown pickup truck by 2 men wearing hunting gear. Knott claimed he told the sheriff, but nothing was ever done. That tape? It was Knott's voicemail recording, panicked and afraid. He said he was being followed and feared for his life. Samuel Knott was found dead by suicide 5 days later. The note was never reported. His death was ruled non-suspicious. The truck Knott described belonged to Tanner and Clay Dobbins, local brothers who were known for being violent, controlling, and cruel. But they were also Rourke's nephews, family protected by law. No one in town had dared to accuse them, but the newly discovered file triggered an official cold case reopening. When investigators revisited the Dobbins property in 2024, they found disturbed soil near the edge of their former barn, which had since collapsed. Using ground-penetrating radar, the bodies of Lena, Mallory, and June were discovered, buried together in a shallow grave. Even after 25 years, remnants of their belongings were preserved: a locket, a friendship bracelet, and the same shoe found near the woods. The discovery sent shockwaves through Mason Hollow. Those who remembered the girls were either devastated or afraid. Many had long suspected the Dobbins brothers, but no one had dared speak out. Marie Griggs was both relieved and enraged. "We were screaming into the void for years, and the sheriff, he buried the truth. He buried them." The state attorney general ordered a special investigation into Sheriff Rourke's department. But Rourke had died in 2018, and Clay Dobbins had died in 2012 in a hunting accident. Only Tanner Dobbins remained alive, now 68 and living quietly in a trailer 2 counties over. He was arrested in March 2025, charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, unlawful burial, and obstruction of justice. But Tanner had a response that chilled even the most hardened investigators. "You think those were the only ones?" Following Tanner's cryptic statement, a multi-jurisdictional task force was formed. They revisited 11 missing persons reports in the same region between 1984 and 2002. Cases of young girls, ages 13 to 18, who disappeared under similar circumstances. Among them was April Neely, who vanished in 1993 while walking home from school. Her backpack was found near a creek. Her body never recovered. Another girl, Tessa Crowley, disappeared after babysitting a neighbor's children. The neighbor, one of Tanner Dobbins' cousins. Investigators now believe the Dobbins brothers may have been responsible for at least 6 other disappearances, possibly more. But due to time, poor record-keeping, and lost evidence, they may never know the full count. In June 2025, Tanner Dobbins stood trial. Marie Griggs testified with tears in her eyes, holding up her daughter's locket. The prosecution laid out the cover-up orchestrated by Rourke, the Dobbins family influence, and the silence that kept the truth buried. On July 11th, Tanner was convicted on all counts and sentenced to life without parole. But for the victims' families, justice came too late. "It wasn't just the killers," said Lena Harper's brother, Jake. "It was everyone who looked away." Mason Hollow today is a ghost of its former self. Tourists now visit the graves of the Mason Hollow 3, and crime podcasters chase interviews from anyone willing to talk. But the locals remain quiet, suspicious, guarded, because even with the case closed, one terrifying question still lingers. Were there others involved? And are they still out there? By the time the small town of Grafton realized that the missing girls, Maya Colburn and Jessa Raymond, weren't just runaways, days had already passed. The initial search efforts had dwindled. The posters started curling at the edges. Parents lowered their porch lights. Life somehow tried to go on, but not for Denise Raymond. Jessa's mother refused to let the silence swallow her daughter's name. She stormed city council meetings, demanded updates from the Grafton PD, and even launched a website called Voices for Jessa and Maya. Her voice shook with fatigue during interviews, but it never broke. And then, 6 months after the girls vanished, something shifted. A farmer named Clint Reeves, plowing a stretch of overgrown pasture 10 miles outside Grafton, unearthed a decaying shoe, the kind that looked eerily like the ones Maya wore the day she vanished. Beneath the shallow layer of dirt were more clues. A torn denim jacket, 2 broken cell phones with missing batteries, and a frayed friendship bracelet. One Denise remembered Jessa tying onto Maya's wrist. Authorities sealed off the site. Forensics teams combed through the land, turning up more fragments. A strand of dyed red hair, cracked fingernails, and blood traces in the soil. While DNA results were pending, the entire county buzzed. Grafton, once known for its quiet corn festivals and peaceful backroads, became a media circus. But there was no peace for Denise, because with the discovery came more questions than answers, and a sudden disappearance of interest from the police. Pattern too familiar. Reporter Claudia Yates, who'd covered the story from the beginning, began noticing something deeply disturbing. 2 years earlier, in a neighboring county, a girl named Brielle Adams had gone missing under similar circumstances. Vanished on her way home from school, presumed a runaway, and dismissed by authorities until her backpack was found in a drainage ditch. That case was also quietly closed, no suspects named. Claudia started digging. By the time she was done, she had compiled a list of 8 missing girls from within a 120-mile radius, girls with similar features, similar backgrounds, and hauntingly similar endings. No body, no suspect, no real investigation. She published a story titled The Forgotten Pattern, What Grafton Refuses to See. It didn't make the front page. The newspaper buried it behind a piece on a local church fundraiser. Still, it got enough traction online to catch the attention of someone unexpected. A voice from the shadows. One night, Claudia received an encrypted email. "You're closer than you think. You're asking the right questions. But someone's watching. Don't stop. Look into Carter Hollow. Summer 2012. No sender. No traceable IP. Just that cryptic message." Carter Hollow was a stretch of forest near the state line. A place locals whispered about but avoided. It had once housed a boys' juvenile detention camp, abandoned after a fire in 2010. Claudia remembered the stories. Rumors of abuse, missing paperwork, and a warden who vanished the day the camp closed. Claudia shared the lead with Denise, and together they planned a visit. What they found there would change everything. Beneath the ashes, the camp was nothing but ruins, charred beams, rusted fences, and the skeleton of a rec hall that had somehow remained partially intact. But it was the cellar that caught Denise's eye. Half covered by vines and collapsed lumber was a metal hatch. Claudia pried it open. Inside was darkness and something worse than darkness. A smell. They called the police. For once, the authorities took it seriously. Over the next 2 weeks, forensic teams excavated the site. What they uncovered sent shockwaves across the state. 5 sets of remains, all female, all between the ages of 14 and 17. One was identified as Brielle Adams. Another, tragically, was Maya Colburn. Jessa, however, was still missing. But she wasn't the only one, because at the base of the cellar wall, behind a loose panel, authorities found a cache of videotapes. Dozens of them, each labeled with a name and a date. What they contained, investigators never revealed to the public, but rumors leaked. Interviews, forced confessions, possibly torture. The FBI stepped in. Suddenly, Grafton PD's chief retired. A detective went on medical leave. Files went missing. Claudia was told to stand down for her safety, but she didn't, and that's what led her to the man with the scar. He approached her car late one night in a diner parking lot. Early 40s, lean, with a deep scar running down the left side of his cheek. He claimed he had once worked at the Carter Hollow facility, back when it was still running. He said the camp was a front, a dumping ground for unwanted kids and a recruitment hub for something darker. Something organized, protected, and deeply rooted in the region's law enforcement and judicial system. It was never about rehabilitation, he said. It was about control and disposal. He slid an old photo onto Claudia's dashboard. In it were 3 men shaking hands. One was the missing warden. Another, Claudia recognized from old county records. And the third, Grafton's former police chief. Then he said something that chilled her to her core. The girls weren't random. They were chosen. And some of them weren't meant to die. They were meant to be broken. Before Claudia could ask more, he was gone. He left a burner phone number and disappeared into the night. She tried calling the number 3 days later. It had been disconnected. And then a whisper. Denise got a call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end was faint, raspy, but unmistakable. Mom, help. Then a click. Silence. Was it possible? Jessa alive? Denise rushed the phone to the FBI, but the number couldn't be traced. They called it a cruel prank. But Denise knew her daughter's voice. She felt it in her bones. That same week, someone broke into Claudia's apartment. Her laptop was stolen, her files ransacked, but nothing else was taken. Whoever it was knew what to look for and what to leave behind. On her kitchen counter sat a single envelope. Inside, a GPS coordinate and a note that read, "You want justice? Come alone. Midnight, or she disappears forever." 20 years after the murder of 9-year-old Kayla Danvers and the disappearance of her sister, Lexi, the town of Briar Ridge had all but buried the tragedy. But Detective Marla Quinn hadn't. She had just been transferred to the Cold Case Division in Indianapolis and stumbled upon the Danvers file while digitizing old records. Something about the photos, the homemade birthday card Kayla clutched in her final moments, wouldn't let her move on. Quinn's instinct told her, someone got away with murder. The new sheriff, Daniel Knox, was fresh-faced and tech-savvy. With DNA backlog finally cleared through a federal initiative, he reopened the Danvers case using newly available evidence. Specifically, a partial fingerprint lifted from the birthday card. The match? A long-haul trucker named Edwin Voss, arrested in Oklahoma in 2004 for unrelated assault charges. He was never tied to Briar Ridge until now. "Do you remember the Danvers family?" Quinn asked him. Voss leaned back, smiling. "Can't say I do. I've seen a lot of roads, ma'am. But did you ever stop at Eleanor's Diner? Back in '97. The smile faded. Voss shrugged. "Might have. Why?" "They had him. Eleanor's diner was run by the Danvers aunt, and according to Lexi's missing persons file, the family had gone there the night before the tragedy. Detectives now believed Voss followed the family from the diner back to their farmhouse. It was Kayla's birthday. Balloons still hung from the porch that morning. Kayla had gone out to check the mailbox. That's when it likely happened, snatched in broad daylight. Her sister, Lexi, may have seen it all, but the question remained, if Voss killed Kayla, where was Lexi? Inside an evidence box, tucked between police statements, Quinn found a letter, written by the girl's mother, Anna Danvers, dated just 2 days before her suicide in 1999. They say Lexi's gone, but I saw her. I swear I saw her at the train station in Indianapolis. I screamed her name. She looked right through me. Anna was never believed. She was deep in grief, heavily medicated. But now, in 2020, Quinn had another theory. What if Lexi wasn't abducted? What if she ran? A breakthrough came from an unlikely source, an amateur sleuth on Reddit. The user, under the handle @GriefCollector, had been comparing facial features in missing children cases with public records. He uploaded a 2005 school yearbook photo of a girl named Allison Ray Cutter, living in Louisville, Kentucky. The resemblance to Lexi Danvers was uncanny. Quinn ran a facial recognition scan. 89% match. Now 31, Allison Ray was a preschool teacher. Clean record. Quiet life. When approached by Quinn and Knox, she panicked. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, trembling. But when shown the photo of Kayla, her defenses shattered. Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't mean to leave her. I was scared. He told me if I screamed, he'd kill her. I thought he already had." Lexi, now Allison, had been living under an alias for decades. The man who abducted them had kept her in a trailer for 3 years, moving between states, grooming her into silence. One night, he passed out drunk and left the door unlocked. She fled. She never went to the police, convinced no one would believe her. Instead, she created a new identity with forged documents from a woman who pitied her. She had buried Lexi Danvers to survive. But she never forgot Kayla, and she knew something else, something horrifying. He wasn't working alone. According to Lexi, there was another man. She only ever heard his voice. He called Voss Mitch. She recalled a key phrase, "Back to the Briar, before the roots get deep," a chilling nod to Briar Ridge. Detective Quinn ran a background check. Edwin Voss had one known associate from that time. Mitchell Crane, a gas station clerk in 1997, later convicted of petty theft and battery, but never murder. And Mitch, he still lived in Indiana. With Lexi's help, the authorities staged a public memorial event for Kayla in Briar Ridge, hoping Mitch Crane would take the bait. The event was promoted across social media, newspapers, and local TV. They made it clear the investigation had been reopened and justice was coming. 2 days before the event, a man matching Mitch's description was spotted at the edge of town, watching, waiting, and then vanished. Detective Quinn's phone rang at 12:47 a.m. On the other end, a voice she didn't recognize whispered, "You're digging up ghosts that want to stay buried. Stop now or you'll join them." The line went dead, and just like that, the darkness of Briar Ridge deepened again. I know you love the story. There is more. Hit the subscribe button now for more chilling true crime stories that will blow your mind.